Have you ever looked at all the gear musicians use and wonder, how does it all work? My name's Dustin, and my family and I are setting out on a quest to inspire both adult and kid musicians to create new sounds together and learn all about what it takes to produce great music. We'd like to invite you along on the journey as we explore the gear professional studios, musicians, and hobbyists use to create their art. We'll take a close-up look at the gear and ask,
what's this button do?
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of What's This Button Do? I'm your host, Dustin, and today I'm so excited. We're going to start the first of a 5-part series on Seeker Effects' new Origin series. Now, what Seeker is doing is taking old school fuzz pedals from the 60s, recreating them with some today's modern ideas and modern designs, but using some new old stock transistors to create these amazing sounding pedals that solve a lot of the old issues that you used to have back in the day with old fuzzes, but they are not charging an arm and a leg for these. These are around $225 a piece, which makes them one of the less expensive fuzz on the market, but you're getting the quality, the build, the sound that you would get from an old vintage pedal in a modern enclosure, and they sound amazing. But I could ramble about them all day long. Let's jump over to the pedal board, and we're going to let you hear the first in the series, the Face. This is their take on the old fuzz Face, and it's a 2-knob fuzz, but it sounds absolutely amazing. Join me over there. We'll take a listen. All right, for today's video, what we're going to be doing is using our trusty Scythe OH19 S-style guitar, because I think S-styles work phenomenally with old style fuzzes. And we're going to be deep diving into the Seeker Origin Face model. Now, this is based on the original fuzz faces of the 60s. They build this with old GE 2N1303 transistors. For those who don't know what that means, they're good. They're good germanium transistors that have a really nice fuzzy quality, but they clean up really, really well. But traditionally, when you deal with old vintage fuzz face pedals, A, they're really expensive, B, they're really finicky, and germanium transistors, especially when they get hot, they tend to not work as well. Just, there's a lot of problems with them. And you usually have like a sweet spot on them that you'll find that's like, okay, this is where I can operate it at. The rest of the settings on there, not so much. It's a little hard. What I am freaking blown away by with Seeker is they've created a pedal that, even though it's only 2 knobs, we don't have to delve into a whole lot of what's this button and what's this knob do today, but I want to show you the range that these have, and really that you can have them on just about any setting and still make this sound absolutely beautiful. So let's dive into the pedal, let you hear some sounds. For the Scythe, the OH19 in position 2 sounds like this. And when we're in the bridge position, we're sound like this. So, really nice, clean tone, nothing fancy here. It's just a really clean, typical Stratty type tone. So what I've got right now is I've got the volume turned down to about 9 o'clock, and then we're just running the fuzz completely off to start off with. I'm gonna leave it in the bridge position and just let you kind of hear a little lead line so you can hear how it sounds. So you can hear, even just with the fuzz turned all the way down and the volume at 9, you're already introducing kind of a gritty texture and that fuzzy sound to it. Let's turn the volume up to about noon, because that's where we're going to get into a real audible kind of. See a nice, sweet, fuzzy tone. But here's the cool part. If I roll my volume back to about 3 or 4, you would never tell that I had a fuzz on there at all. Back up all the way. See, it introduces that little bit of extra grit, a little bit of extra edge. As we bring the fuzz up, well, let's take the volume all the way up first so you can see. The loudest that it goes, you'll hear it's just making it louder, and it gives you a little bit more on the treble side of things. And again, we can clean this up by moving down to 3. Now, if I introduce a little fuzz with the volume cranked all the way, and I've got my volume on my guitar back all the way. And if I clean it up, again, all completely usable tones. Now, I don't like to run my volume that hot. I like to keep my volume back toward the middle because that helps you keep your signal clean. You're not hearing a lot of that heavy hiss that you would typically have from a fuzz, and especially from germanium transistors, you're going to get some of that. Even with my volume fully turned up on my guitar, this is all the background noise that I'm getting. Now, the fuzz side of this is where you can really introduce not more grit, but more just crackly edges around the sound. So at full volume, here's where I'm at right now. Let's take it to noon. You hear it's not a massive difference there. It's just got a little bit more grit and a little bit more sustain to the notes. Bring it up to about 2 o'clock. You can start to hear it really start to get grimy. And then when we max it out, hear how much sustain? It reminds me a lot of like a old Big Muff, like the way that would sustain out at the end of the notes. It has some of that sustain, just not with the thick grittiness of a Big Muff. But the fuzz on this is absolutely killer, because usually, like I said, on an old school fuzz face, you crank that all the way up, it's almost unusual. And on the ones where you could crank it all the way up and the sound was good, once you started going to lower sounds, it just didn't sound that great. Usually there was just 1 or 2 sweet spots on an old fuzz face. Here, I find that if I bring this to about right around anywhere in between the 12 and 3 o'clock position, you're not hearing a lot of background noise in the back. Even when I've got this cranked up, you got a little bit of hum, but you can still talk over the top of it. But listen to how great this sounds. And then watch as I clean it up. If I roll my volume back to about 5. It responds to your pick attack. And if I bring it back all the way to 3, clean as a bell. So really, you can just ride the volume knob, leave your settings on the fuzz pedal right about here, and ride your volume knob, and you can absolutely contour the sound that you're getting out of this 100%. And even if I've got my volume all the way maxed out, if I just lighten my pick attack, and if I roll it back to about 7, now, there's something else about this that I think is absolutely magical, and that's how it plays with other pedals, because typically fuzzes back in the 50s or in the 60s, when you plugged something in front of them, they just couldn't handle it. They didn't sound good. They lost something. Right now, I've got my signal coming directly out from my guitar into the face. What I'm going to do now is reroute my signal. I'm going to put a wah in front of that, put the fuzz pedal afterwards, and I'm going to stick a delay and a reverb afterwards. And I'm going to let you hear what this sounds like with a full mix of sounds going into it, because that's where I think the face absolutely shines. This plays so well with other pedals and sounds so good with other pedals, you have to hear it. So let's do that right now. All right, I've got my EMB wah turned on in front of the Seeker face. And then behind that, I've got my Avalanche Run just giving me a little bit of delay, a little bit of reverb. So I'm going to leave my volume on at 10. I'm just going to use my pick to control my attack a little bit so you can get a little bit of variation in the sound. Let's hear how that sounds. Here we go. Now, last but not least, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my OH19 into position 2, leave the volume at 10, everything's still alone, and I'm going to show you using the position 2, it's a little bit quieter, a little bit more mellow, a little less trebly attack. And so what happens is that mellows out the fuzz a little bit, and it really allows you to control with your pick attack how much the fuzz comes out. So here's what that sounds like. Just love how smooth and creamy that sounds. Seeker freaking nailed this. So, what I tell you, the way that this cleans up and the way that it handles the attack on your guitar sounds so absolutely amazing. And like I said, there's tons of sweet spots on here. It's not just a one spot's going to sound great. If you want to get into a grittier territory, you can crank that fuzz up. If you want to just use it kind of as a little dirty boost, you can crank the fuzz down and crank the volume up. There's a lot of things that you can do with this pedal, but it sounds good no matter where you set it up at. But the more important thing is this pedal lets you use your volume knob to create clarity and punch when you need it, and then get gritty and nasty when you need it as well. And of all the fuzz face pedals that I've played, I gotta say, I genuinely think this is one of the best I've ever played. And the way that it interacted with that wah pedal, just oh man, you guys nailed it. I cannot thank you enough. This is going to be on my board. Ironically, and a little spoiler alert, most of this series is going to be on my board. I'm so impressed with what Seeker is doing here. It's just amazing. So please, please, please join me back here next week. We're going to be taking a look at more of the series, and I'll kind of fill you in on what they're doing next. And if you are interested in these, please leave a comment down below. I'm going to be working with my friends over at Palen Music. We've been talking a little bit to Origin, and we may be bringing these in the fold, but it will help if we know that you guys would like to see them in the shop. I'll pass that information on to Kyle. So please, 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 if you would like to see us do some of these and do some special runs of these with Seeker, please, please, please comment down below, and I'll pass that information on to our friends at Palen. And as always, please, if you get a chance, go follow me on Instagram as well. This summer is going to be a little bit hectic with our family issues. We've got some health issues going on in the family, and we're having to kind of do some things different in my house. So you're going to see less long form content and a lot more short form content from me for the coming months as we get through our health issues. But I will be putting out something every week, either over here or on Instagram. So please give me a follow over there if you get a chance. Well, thank you so much. I can't wait to see you next week as we look at the next pedal in this series. And you have a wonderful week, and I'll see you soon.